All right, kids, welcome back. This is Tiny Steps, Big Achievements, The Power of Incremental Progress, a book by Patrick Claremont, a financial autobiography available on Amazon if you wish and want to read it a bit better than I'm reading it right now, I guess. I am reading it without, as you know by now, without edits and all that, just to show you how the real world works and real people do it. All right. This is chapter 4, and I'm going to do chapter 5 too because chapter 4 is only half a page here. So, chapter 4, another dimension. Try to see things from a different perspective. That's the title there. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. That was from Albert Einstein. I like that. Okay, I chatted with my daughter one day and wanted to know if she was a natural born pessimist or an optimist. So I showed her a glass of water, I showed her a glass half filled with water, and I asked her if the glass was half full or half empty. She looked at it, and then at me, and then she went back and forth a few times, and I could see from the look of confusion on her face. After a few moments, I asked her, "Well, is it half full or half empty?" She said, "Well, Dad, it all depends on your goal. If your goal is to drink it all up, then I would say it's half empty. If your goal is to fill it, I would say it's half full." I thought about that for a moment and I said, "Go to your bed. Go to your room, smartass. Your perspective will either become your prison or your passport." That's Stephen Furtick. All right, let's move on, kids, to chapter 5. Chapter 5 is Plan Y. How I made $53,000 in less than 3 hours. Kinda. John Morrison once said, "Here is an equation worth remembering. $5 earned minus $7 spent equals an unhappy life." That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Okay, let's move on here. Plan Z was simply to change nothing. Live life as I was doing and retire at 65. If I wanted a better outcome, all I had to do was change something. Anything. As long as that something didn't take up too much of my time. I knew that if I wanted to improve on my Z plan, I'd have to trick myself into doing it. But how? I was too ADHD to set big, lofty financial goals. I knew from past experience that any goal that made money the focus and took time away from my free time would end up a goal unrealized. I needed a change that was relatively quick to do, was small, and was simple, just like me. If I was going to reach a point in my life where I could call it a day and start enjoying my post-work years, it would have to be done on my terms. And now I'm taking my time and I'm turning the page because this is the real world and it's unedited. I am a verbal thinker. When someone asks what my next move is or what I'm planning to do over the next year, I start to throw out all of my ideas at once. As I babble on, people tend to shake their heads in dismay. They stop making eye contact and slowly back away from me. "You can't do everything," or "what do you really want?" are things I hear all the time. To me, it's a fireworks of ideas. That's what I say as I look up and watch my shimmering, twinkling fingers. Then I haphazardly pick some sparkles from the sky and raise my eyebrows in joy. So many choices. I guess what I'm trying to say is focusing on something for a long time is not my strong point. It just wasn't in me to come up with the ultimate dream plan and focus on it until I got there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I wanted to retire as early as possible. The question was, how do I do it in a way that works for me? Okay, so this is a little ADHD moment to kind of give you an idea of who I am. I love learning. I love reading books and asking people I meet tons of questions about their lives. I also tend to hyperfocus. For example, one year I only read books about the brain. Books like My Stroke of Insight by Jill Bolt Taylor, PhD, The Brain's Way of Healing Itself, and The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Deutsch, books on autism, social development, and the list goes on. It seems every year I hyper-focus on a different subject. You think I could hyper-focus on retirement, plan A, let's say, but alas, it is not so. Or is it? As it turns out, in a strange way, all my goals from Z down to A were really all A goals, sort of. I mean, if you think about it, if I had stopped at Z and ended my search there, in a way, that would have been my A goal. But I'm digressing. Okay, how was I going to improve my Z plan? I had to make the upgrade small and easy. It couldn't be too time consuming or life changing. I didn't want my retirement planning interfering with my life. The concept was not how to create a full color A plan. It was about creating a multitude of small improvements to my plan, to my Z plan. The dream was simply to retire as early as possible. If that was retiring at 65, then so be it. Again, I want to remind you that everyone is different. Don't compare your ideas of retirement with others. Many people have said to us, "Oh, I wish I was you." And our response is usually, if you wanted to be us, you'd be living like us. But you're not us. You're you. Live like you, plan like you. Create your own Z to A plan for your own life. Okay, so another little ADHD moment here. I have a few millionaire friends who seem to work 18-hour days, 7 days a week. One is a business owner in his early 70s, another a world-traveling CEO, and yet others are investors and land developers. They all come from different walks of life. They all claim to love what they do, and they tell me it's not work, it's pure pleasure. I watch them run around and do what they do, and to be honest, it looks a lot like work to me. I don't want their lifestyles, and they don't want mine. That's why I will continue to remind you that we all have our own ideas of what a nice life is. Don't try to be someone else. Don't worry about what others want. Think about what you want and what makes you happy. And trust me, like I've had people try and convince me to come in business with them, but it's not what I want to do. I just want to do what I'm doing. Just right now, when I'm talking to you, that's what I want to do. These are the things that I want to do. All right. So back to the story. How would my Y plan improve on my Z plan? After a few weeks or so, it hit me. Debt. That's the big one. Debt. What if I reduced my debt load? I figured the quicker I did that, the less I'd be paying in interest charges. But how? I wasn't going to take on another job. I was working 40 hours a week, and that was more than enough, thank you. I wasn't ready to start looking for a higher paying job either. I was comfortable, and I got my pick of holiday time, so that was pretty good. So how could I reduce my debt with the money I was already making? Increasing the payment wasn't really an option. We were barely making ends meet. Some months they didn't meet at all. As I saw it at the time, I had two choices. The first was debt consolidation. I really didn't want to do that. I didn't feel comfortable having to commit to mandatory payments over many years. I really wanted to stay in control of my own finances. Getting a line of credit was not an option. I had way too much debt versus income, and I was making minimum wage at the time, so that ain't going to happen. Another solution I came up with was paying less interest. It was an idea, but how does one go about paying less interest? The rest of the day, I toyed with the idea of calling the credit card companies and asking for a reduction in my interest rates. When I got home, I told my wife about the idea, and she encouraged me to go ahead and try. I did a little research on the internet. I think it was dial-up back then. No, actually, I think we're on high speed by then. Anyhow, when I got home, I told my wife the idea, and she encouraged me to go ahead and try. I did a little research on the internet and realized it was possible to negotiate a better deal with the credit card companies. Plan Y would be calling all three credit card companies. I was ready to go all in and committed to 3 hours of my day making phone calls. As the moment of truth got close, I could feel myself getting anxious. I decided to write down negotiating points. I figured that would keep me from being too distracted and rambling on. My main arguments were: 1. I was finding it hard to make the payments. 2. I was looking into having my debt consolidated. 3. It would be in their best interest to cut my interest rate a little bit. If I did get my debt consolidated, they would lose money in the long run. So I took a few deep breaths and psyched myself up and made the calls. As it turns out, I was able to get my interest rate reduced on 2 out of 3 cards. Instead of paying an average rate of 20%, I was now paying an average rate of 14%. That's the only thing I did that week. After all, I had to muster up the courage to make the call, and that took a lot out of me. Don't forget, I had to put in almost 3 hours of work. Mind you, most of that was time spent on hold. I'm turning the page again. I felt like a real winner. I was so excited. I had executed my first big deal. Plan Y was to make 3 phone calls. Mission accomplished. We sat down and upgraded our Z plan. One small step, one giant impact. Instead of paying over $81,000 in interest over 22 years, I would now be paying about $43,000 in interest in 18 years. Not only did I save money, I also saved time. I could be debt-free 4 years sooner. This would add time to my retirement savings. Plan Y had a domino effect that I hadn't fully realized before I made the calls. I was saving around $38,000 in interest payments. I saved 4 years of payments. And number 3, I added an extra 4 years to add to my RRSPs. That could add up to $15,000 more to our retirement pot. I could hardly believe it. It felt like I had just made $53,000 in less than 3 hours. $38,000 in interest savings, plus the extra $15,000 in RSPs. It was crazy. Sure, it was $53,000 spread out over 33 years. Nevertheless, that still averaged out to almost $1,600 a year in savings. I was happy to have it, or at least happy not to pay it out. I'll probably say this more times than you care to hear it, but here it goes. Everyone is different, and we all want different things. Everybody has their own ideas of what the perfect retirement life is going to be. I know some folks who never want to retire. They want to work until they die. I don't understand them. I do not understand those people at all. But I don't have to. The question is always, what is your retirement going to be like? Let your Z plan be your guide. Work on improving it over the next few years. Don't be surprised if you change your mind as you move forward. Your ideas about retirement will probably need to change depending on how much time you have. Change with it. When we first started our Z plan, we never imagined retiring at 52 and 53. By the time, 51 and 52. By no means did we think we'd ever leave BC and move to Ontario. I guess what I'm trying to say is, enjoy the ride your plan takes you on. Earl Wilson once said, if you think nobody cares if you're alive, try missing a couple of car payments. That's right, somebody will care. Chapter 6 is next time. So that's where I'm going to stop today, kids. I hope you enjoy yourself. I hope you enjoy my little reading there. Sorry, I'm assuming that in the future I'll be able to read a little bit smoother and be a little bit more fun. But I do, again, want to emphasize, I've helped people. I've helped a lot of people now with their retirement planning, and some of them have started, when they were like 57, 58. Some of them, one of them was 59 when we started making their plan. And you know what? It's just about improving your retirement, make it as good as you possibly can before you get there. If you start young enough, you should be able to make a big difference on it. Anyhow, that's my chat for today. I hope you're enjoying this. I'm not sure if you can leave comments in here or thumbs it up. I'm all new to this stuff. I'm used to my YouTube videos. It's my first podcast, and I'm hoping that you guys enjoy it. Anyhow, we'll see you next time when we talk about the next chapter. All right. Have a good one, kids.